Good day, everyone, and welcome to the 2026 pre-application webinar. My name is Michael Taiwo, and I founded the Michael Taiwo Scholarships in 2019. We started as an unincorporated association, and then in 2022, we formally became a US company. And later in 2022, we secured our 501c3 status, which make us to be classified as a public charity in the United States. We are a US-based company, California-based, and we provide scholarships to students all across the world who are planning on becoming a grad student in any school of their choice, again, around the world. So we have done this since October 1 of 2019. So far in our history, we've had over 50,000 applicants from over 67 countries. From that, we've been able to award about 300 scholarships. And we are looking forward to another very impactful application season. So sometimes in our history, we realize that it's good for us to have this pre-application webinar to anticipate questions that people might have and then answer them as best as possible. This will also enable you to prepare well ahead of the application itself. We are going to be sharing. I'm recording it right now, and this recording is going to be on our website. It's also going to be on every relevant social media page that we manage. I think that's that in the way of introduction. And again, as there will be plenty of time for questions and answers. And for now, I will just go over.
Very smart girl. 100.
Um, please mute yourself if you are not talking. This call should have been on a webinar platform. Um, so let me. Okay, I want to see what I'm sharing. Yeah, so opening remarks, I think the next thing is eligibility criteria. What are we looking for? And for that, I need to actually share the website. Okay. So the eligibility criteria, I think if there is one thing to keep in mind, it is that we do our best to mirror what admission committees are going to be doing. So that's uh, the overarching uh, theme in all of this is we try to think, okay, how would the admission committee see this candidate, or what would an admission committee think about when they are selecting candidates, and then we try to mirror that. Um, so because and the reason we do that is number one, we found that to be the most efficient way to process applications. And also is because it's what you as a student you're going to be subjected to anyway. People before you're given an admission into a school, let's say you want to apply to University of Florida, there will be an admission committee that is going to look at your profile. So what are they going to be looking for? That's about the same thing that we try to do as well. So we try to mimic admission committees as much as possible. You should know that we are, I want to make sure I increase this a little bit. We're eligible to all recent graduates. Um, if whether you studied, sciences or engineering or law or social science, accounting, humanities, whatever, your course of studies do not matter. As long as there is a master's or a PhD in your course of study that you'll be interested in, you can apply. Um, we don't we don't limit that in any way. And also too, if you just finished from a university or a polytechnic, you can apply as well. It needs to be recent graduates. People usually ask how recent is recent. We do not put a limit on that, but we again are going to look at it the same way admission committees are going to look at this. If you've graduated, 20 years ago, you're probably not going to, on that score, you're not going to be um, as relevant as somebody who just graduated 2 years ago or who graduated last year. I do not know who made this streak on the screen. Um, I don't know if one of the co-hosts can remove that. This yellow streak. So, um, so we look at recent graduates. To be eligible for the Michael Taiwo Scholarships, you must be a recent graduate or you must be a final year student. So what do I mean by the final year student? It means that you need to be graduating that year. Okay, you need to be graduating that year. So let's just bring it down to a practical thing. If you are in uh, 2026, as we are right now, then you need to be graduating in 2026. We do not see final year students as those who are going to be graduating next year. So even if you are going to be graduating next year and you're technically you're a final year student, to us, you're not a final year student. I hope that is clear. Okay. And then we've talked about this needs to be in any field. And then we need to complete the application form during the application window. We are not open year round. This year, we're going to be opening on Monday, June 15 at exactly 12 p.m. GMT. And the application is going to be closing at June 30 at exactly 12 p.m. GMT as well. So from June 15 to June 20. So you could say in about a little over 3 weeks from now, that's when we're going to be opening. And then it's going to be open for just 15 days. And then after that, we'll close it and the winners are going to be announced about August, on or before the end of August. There are no hard yes, no to this. We consider an application holistically. So the ID candidate, he needs to have If you're thinking about a 5-point scale, you need to have a minimum of 4.0. The next question you're going to ask is, oh, does that mean if I have below this, I'm not considered? No, you are considered. It's just if you have which again is how the admission committee is going to look at your case. The higher you, um, the higher you have, the higher your GPA, the higher your chances. All other things, equal. But every other thing is not usually equal. So you will see somebody with a 2-2 get a fully funded scholarship. It happens in real life and it happens in our scholarship as well. So even if you have a lower GPA, you might still be considered. I think because we're using a meeting format, the number of participants is capped at 100. So we will be sending this recording, like I said, to other people, and those who are not able to join will be able to listen to this. A lot of emphasis because I mean the GPA gets the headline, but we do place a lot of emphasis on the essay, asking you why. And if you've done any other thing as well, some of you have published a paper, for instance, all of that is going to be considered. If you've written the GRE or the TOEFL, your scores, all of that is going to be considered. Any clarity you can demonstrate towards the achievement of your goals, uh, all of that is going to be considered. In short, we look at your application the same way the graduate admission committee is going to look at it. Okay. And then let's talk about the form, which is what you're going to fill. We've done our best to make the form as simple as possible to fill. Before the application itself, I am going to release another video that shows exactly how to fill the form, but the form is actually just quite straightforward. You fill in your name, you pick your gender, you put your email address. Make sure that you give us an email address that is going to work. And then for your phone number, the code is already given. So you're from the Cayman Islands, if you're from Nigeria, because we do have a lot of applicants from Nigeria, we kind of programmed Nigeria to be the first one that you can pick. That way you don't have to scroll all the way down. And in the past, this has thrown some people off. They'll say, oh, Nigeria is not on the list. No, in fact, Nigeria is number 1 on the list. You just need to know that that's the first on the list. And many times, if you are having an issue with this form, just like in many other software applications, just close the browser and start all over. Close the form and start all over. Many times that will clear the issue for you. So, you put your phone number and you put your social media handles, if you have one. In the nationality as well, we've put the top 2 countries where where we've traditionally gotten most of our applicants. And again, this is to make it easy. So if you're from Ghana and you're trying to look for Ghana here, you won't find Ghana. Then you'll be like, oh, they did not put Ghana. No, it's right here as right next to Nigeria. So we did that for nationality. If you're currently staying in a different country, because you might be from Ghana, but right now you might be living in Nigeria, or you might be in Nigeria, but right now, okay. So if you're from Nigeria, he asks for your states of origin. If you might be in Nigeria, but right now you might be living in Algeria, then you pick Algeria. Then we start to go into your undergraduate university. Okay, so if you are private university. We try to pick so many schools. If you don't find your school, just say, my school is not here, and type order, and you can pick your school. Uh, you pick your field of study. We put a general label here, and that's because we're trying to optimize the form, because there are so many engineering fields and different school will call it different things. One school will say petroleum engineering, another school will say petroleum and gas engineering, another school will say gas and petroleum engineering. So it's just, and that's just on engineering. Uh, there will be science. It's also a large number of choices. So to make data analysis and processing easy for us, we've restricted it to this category. Now, if you truly feel like your course of study is not in any of all these ones that we've mentioned, then you can click order and you can let us know what that is. And then your maximum obtainable GPA, if your school is, for instance, on a 7.0 scale, you click on that, and then your GPA is then capped at that. And if your GPA is, let's say, 5.99, I'll go ahead and select that. The class of degree that is on your certificate, if you finish with a distinction, or now this is something that you finished with. Don't try to be, yeah. So when you're doing this, if there is any error, it's going to show error. When you fix it, it's going to change as fixed. Don't try to be cute here. There was one year where somebody put a first class, and then we found out that that person didn't finish with the first class, and then they said, "Oh yeah, but I put my GPA when I finished my first year." Like, yeah, nobody's asking for your GPA after your first year. We're asking for your GPA you graduated with. So, uh, yeah. So if you're a final year student, meaning you're still in school, but you're reasonably expecting that this year you're going to finish, because you might be finishing in June or July or August of 2026, then you pick final year student. But if you've already graduated this year, maybe last week, maybe 3 months ago, then you pick 2026. And then this asks if you are currently in a master's program or if you already have your master's degree. And if not, just click no. This is where we ask questions about whether you've written a standardized exam. So the form is interactive in the sense that your answer will determine what next you're going to be asked, right? So have you written a standardized exam? If you say yes, then it's going to ask you what standardized exam have you written. If you click say GRE, then there will also be more things that will come out to ask you questions about that. So, um, so it's a simple form, but depending on the answers that you pick, it might lead you to a different path from somebody else. And sometimes you've actually not written the exam. You've registered for it, but you've not written it. So in that case, you click yes, and you tell us the exam that you are going to be taking. So if you're already scheduling to write your exam in 2026, then that's it. And you can do more than one. You can click here and say, oh, I'm going to be writing the TOEFL 2 at the end of this month. So you pick May 31, 2026. And if you feel like, oh no, that's not true, you delete it. Uh, this is the most important part of this. Why should we select you for this scholarship? and then you type your words, the scholarship because, So just think through why. So typically our acceptance rate hovers at, I would say, 0.5%, less than 1%. So meaning out of every 100 people, we pick like one. So why should you be the one, basically? And let us know in about 150 words. And then we asked if you have a disability. If yes, tell us the kind of disability. Uh, there was one year somebody click yes, disability, and then they click other, and then in the type of their disability, they say financial. Being poor is not a disability. So don't try to be cute here. Um, so it's real, disability. And then also too, we vision, like if you are just wearing glasses, half of the world wear glasses. That's not a disability. A lot of times people say, "Oh yeah, I have a disability vision," and then they will put, "I use corrective lenses to." No, that's not. We don't. That's why we actually specify it so that somebody that is using a braille and can't see, even if you put glasses on them, is different from somebody who's using glasses. So again, don't try to be cute. If you don't have any disability, just click no. If you do have, then we ask the question on how do you get around day to day with this disability? We want to know. Because a disability means that, some things that is easy for somebody else might be a little more challenging for you. So we want to know how you're getting about your day to day. And then there are some consents that you need to sign. This is from last year. The form this year is going to look a little different. The consent is a little more robust than that, but basically we need those consent from you to be able to process your application very well. So that's the form in a nutshell. There will be a video similar to this that I will make for this 2026 application form, and then that will go on the form once the form itself is ready. This is the form we used last year. The one this year is going to look like 95% like this, which is why we're using it for this pre-application webinar. We've talked about how to apply. Yeah, our screening process, we mirror what grad school will do. And with that, I will turn it over to you guys to ask your question. You can raise up your hand and then you'll be called. Prudence, please go ahead and ask your question. Okay, Prudence, please go ahead. Obu Samuel, you can go ahead and ask
Yes,
your
sir.
questions. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. Good evening, sir.
Yeah.
My question is, while you were going through the form, there was no place where someone can upload their CV. And while you were speaking concerning the selection process, mirroring graduate school application, you said things like you evaluate if you have publication is a plus. So I don't know, how are you going to completely evaluate a candidate with just these basic details without the CV without publications and stuff like that?
That's a very good question. Because we receive a lot of applications, the very first step here, we do not ask for co-host, please try and mute people that are not talking. We try not to ask for any attachment because it's going to be unmanageable for us. If we have 10,000 people applying, which we do, and we're expecting also this year, and each person is uploading 2 or 3 or 4 documents, that becomes really, really cost prohibitive for us. So because of that, this form does not have the ability for you to upload anything. Now, back to your question, how then can you make a holistic argument, holistic review if we're not uploading things? That will come in your essay. So that is why we say the essay is very important. At the first step, remember there will be several steps, or there will be several screening steps. At the first step here, we believe you. You can say, I'm Albert Einstein, I invented a nuclear reactor, blah, blah, blah. We're going to take you at your word for this first step. Of course, that might take you past the screening step if you lie, but eventually you're going to have to defend everything. Because eventually, when the pool is smaller, we then begin to ask for those documents because at that point it's manageable. And of course, if we see that you are not Albert Einstein and you have not invented any nuclear reactor, then we toss you out. So at the end of the day, you're still not going to get the scholarship just because you lie here. So if you've published scholarly articles, if you are, say, the best graduating student in your department, if there are things you know truly will stand you out, you want to fit them in this 150 words. You don't want to use this to say things that are not important. That way, we pick up on it, and then your application can move to the next step. So that's a good one. Samuel Ubu, if you're not talking, then I'll say Temiloluwa Olabisi. You can go next.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Okay, thank you very much for this webinar. About the CGPA part, for final year, that is for students that have already graduated, school list is out, but an official list of your CGPA is not out. How do you go about that in the CGPA section?
Yeah, usually it's close. Okay, so if you know your GPA right now, even though the official is not out, you can put it there. And then during the application, as if that tips you to the next rounds, and we finally ask, we're going to ask for your either unofficial or official transcript. And again, I said usually it's close. Why? Because at that point, it's probably the last semester that might be one way or the other. There is no way the one you think you're going to get will be 4.1, and then the one that the school will give you will be 4.9. Like, it's not going to be that huge. I've seen situations where somebody would think, oh, maybe they will finish with 4.67, and by the time it comes back, it's 4.62. Okay, I can see that. But it's not usually something so dramatic that it will change the calculus. Temiloluwa Olabisi.
Okay, good evening, sir. Thank you for your presentation. Good evening, sir. Thank
Good
you
evening.
for
How
your
are you?
presentation.
Go ahead,
Yes,
please.
so I wanted to ask, I have two questions, and the first one is about the standardized tests. So
Okay.
the question was, have you written a standardized test before? So let's
Mhm.
say somebody wrote IELTS like 3 years ago. I will know the validity period for IELTS is 2 years, but the planning to write another one, but I've not registered. So can I upload the results for the test from 3 years ago, and without work? Then my second question is about recommendation letters. I believe that maybe at one stage of the maybe at a later stage you might need recommendation letters. So that we'll be able to reach out to whoever we see we want to get recommendation letters from. Will we have enough, like will we be informed on time so we can prepare? Or it's just going to be like a very short period? That's my question. Thanks, sir.
Okay. Those are very good questions. I can't see myself anymore. Am I still on video? Let's see. So, okay, now I see myself. The first question, the question about recommendation letter, no, we're not going to ask for recommendation letters at throughout this application. So that's a little different from the way admission committees do. We know, but we're not going to ask for recommendation letters. So you can take that off of the list of things you need to worry about. About the standardized exam that you've written in the past and its validity period has lapsed, you should still put it. Because it then gives us an idea of what you're capable of. So have you written a standardized exam? So in your own example, we say yes. I've written the IELTS, and then you now say, well, I wrote it, in 2022, May, and this is my score. And then that way we know that, okay, you know what, she needs to still write a new one. But still, that gives us an idea of how good you are, right? So in the IELTS, let's say you scored 9 in everything, then we know that, oh, wow, if this person rewrites it, more than likely they're still going to have a 9. Innocent. Innocent, you have your hand up.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir. Please
Good
confirm
evening.
if you can get me. Okay, thank you very much, sir. So, sir, you said earlier that the acceptance rate is very low. So my first question is, like, how many scholars will be picked for this batch? Then also, how many stages are there for the application, especially for the persons that passed the first stage? And then lastly, what do you say for the use of AI in our application? Are you for or against it? Thank you very much, sir.
Those are all very good questions. The first question about how many scholars will be picked this year, we are going to have a minimum of 66 this year. And how do I mean by minimum? So last year we picked 66 people, and then this year we always try to peg it to have at least the minimum number as the previous year. So if we got 66 last year, if we picked 66 last year, then we're going to do at least 66 this year. So I like that. So the next one is you asked about forgotten. Can you remind me?
Yeah, the stages that we're going to go through to pass the
Yeah,
first
so the
step.
stages you're going to go through, it depends on your profile. Some people go through more than others. Just like the application form, you see, like when you click something. So, for instance, let me use as an example. if you click that no, you have not written a standardized exam, you're not going to see that follow-up question that says which one did you pick and how much did you get. So that's also how the stages of the our screening stages are. It depends on your profile. So some people will tell you that, oh, I went through, for instance, an aptitude test, and some people will tell you that I did not do any aptitude test. It all depends on the on what your profile is. But typically before, what I can say is common to everybody is everybody applies, right, in the beginning. And then before you are awarded the scholarship, there is going to be an interview. So I don't think you'll meet anyone who is an empty scholar that will tell you that, no, I was not interviewed. They just told me that I've won it without interview. You're not going to see that happen. So, and then on AI, so you want to write from your heart. AI is a good tool for you, and it's something that I certainly use in my own day-to-day life and business. But you have to use it to, maybe if you want to correct your grammar or you want to correct your work. If you just go to here and say, oh, write me a good scholarship essay that you think will win the Michael Taiwo Scholarship, I can guarantee you that it's going to give you something that will get you rejected. Your story is unique. Your qualifications are unique, and we want to hear your voice. And when we read these essays, we are looking for that. So I'm not saying don't go to AI to brainstorm, or to maybe even correct the grammar, or to, I mean, people have won the MT scholarship before with application essays that are riddled with grammatical errors. So I'm not even saying that we are marking your grammar, because that is not what we're marking. We're marking your story. We're marking your content more than anything else. Now, if at any time during the application you are called to do like an exam, like an aptitude test, absolutely no, you can't use AI. If you use it, we will find out, and that will be disqualifying. So I want to imagine that your question on AI is specifically around the essay, not around can you use it for exam. All right, Precious Osage.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for the session. It was very impactful. So I have two questions. The first one is, during the course of your presentation, you mentioned the fact that we can apply for an MSc program or a PhD program. And you also mentioned that we're going to have to submit our social media links, let's say our LinkedIn. Now, what about someone like myself that is interested in going for an MSc program, but is already registered into an MSc program here in Nigeria? Hope it's not going to affect our chances, because I did biotechnology in my undergraduate days, and my project area was very interesting. It's one I wanted to further. So I was like, while processing other offers outside the country, let me start an MSc here and further. So hope it's not going to affect my application in any way. Then the second question is that for someone like me that is unable to afford professional exams like IELTS and the others, what are the chances? Hope it's not also going to affect our overall application. That's my question, sir.
No, it's not going to affect your overall application. We're just trying to get in as much of your data and information as possible. So not like, oh, people who already write the GRE, they have a higher chance than, yeah. So just apply, please. Your first question about social media handle. I don't think I'm really following that question very well.
Okay, so what I said about that was that I am already enrolled into a master's program here in University of Benin, Cellular Molecular Biology, and that
Okay.
information is available on my LinkedIn account. And if I'm
Okay.
also registering now on this program for another MSc program, hope it's not going to affect my chances of getting the scholarship. That's my question, sir.
Oh, no, no, no. So again, we're trying to remember we're not allowing uploads of CVs and things like that at this stage. So we're just trying to get in as many information as possible. And by the way, guys, if you just want to see the people we pick, you can look at the previous winners. If you go on our website and you click previous winners, you will see that we have picked people with masters. I mean, okay, so if you see two GPAs like this, so this guy is an example. He had a 4.19 over 5, and then he had a 4.63 over 5, 2019 and 2023. That tells you that he already got his master's as at the time he applied for the MT scholarship. So you being in a master's program, or if you already have your master's, it's not disqualifying at all. It's just for us, it's just another data point to help us to properly assess you.
All right, thank you,
Uh,
sir.
you're welcome, and all the best. Chukuma. Chukuma, please go ahead.
Okay, good evening, sir. And
Good evening.
thank you very much for this opportunity. So I want to ask about three questions. And so my first question is that I'm not active on LinkedIn. Sir, are you hearing me, please?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, my first question is that I'm not active on LinkedIn and Twitter, and in the application form, I saw where they asked for our LinkedIn and Twitter handle link. So is that a limiting factor? And then my second question is that I stammer, especially when I'm tensed. So is that a disability? And then the third question is concerning publications. If you've published articles but not on the internet, maybe on school magazines and like maybe on school magazines and its kind, does that count as a publication?
Okay, good question. So school magazine does not count as publication. Publication really means you published a scholarly article in a professional journal. Um, the the level of rigor that goes into that is much greater than the one that goes into a school magazine. If you are not sure, put it there. We are going to sieve things out eventually. So if you feel like, man, I'm publishing school magazine, and not everybody gets published in school magazine. If you think that is going to give you, an edge, and if it is true, more importantly, put it and let us assign it the weight that we feel it is due. The question about you stammering, you can put it there as a disability. If you think that that this really affects me, and I think that would be, I don't think we do have it, so you can say yes, and then it's not mental or vision or mobility, so you could just put I stammer or I stutter, something like that. That's fine. If you click no to, that's okay. But if you want to specify that is still a more legitimate disability than say, uh, glasses also. I think that's all your question, or am I missing one?
Okay, sir, I also asked about LinkedIn and Twitter and
Yeah, so the question asks for your social media handle. It doesn't ask whether you are active or not, or whether you have followers or not, or just put your social media handle there. So it doesn't, your level of activity or inactivity does not count. Yeah.
Sir,
Bashir Abdullahi Sani.
hello, good day, everyone.
Good day.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you.
So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak. And my question goes like this. You mentioned about that we should try as much as we can to include relevant stuffs that we did in the essay section. So, given your experience as part of the maybe review team or judges for the scholarship, what are the key points that you think are very relevant to the application, especially considering the past scholars that got to the final stage of this scholarship? What are the key tips and um, what are the key things that will make an application stand out?
Yeah, I think I've mentioned it already. Answer truthfully. Don't try to get cute on any one of this. Don't try to look for any loophole. Just answer the questions as asked and spend time reflecting on why you should be selected for the scholarship. If you do have any um, merit or unique angle or life story or your motivation, all of that you can put into the scholarship. If you've also been following us, either on social media or if you receive our newsletter or if you go on our website, you kind of get a feel for what the whole organization is about. And that will help you when you're writing an essay. So this is something, probably the most important thing that would stand you out. And it's you go in there and just try to get into because at the end of the day, what are you applying for, right? You're applying to this scholarship so that you can become an MT scholar. Yes, that would get you into maybe a grad school and things like that, but also it's gonna make you a part of a community. And you want to ask yourself, if you want to be part of this community, what is this community about? What does it mean for me to be an MT scholar? So those are all the things you need to ask yourself. And all of that, the answer to all that is out there in the open. It's out there in the open for you to read. We produce a ton of data between our blog, our social media handles, and our newsletters. We churn out a lot of data. that if you listen to us and if you read and if you follow us, you kind of know what we're about, and that will help you in writing this essay. Z, there is a Z in the call.
Okay. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Okay, first of all, I want to appreciate your time and efforts for this opportunity. Thank you so much. My question is, you said the scholarship is actually for recent graduates and final year students, and I don't know how recent because given my profile, I actually graduated in 2021. That is about 5 years now. So I don't know if it's too old or too, I don't know if I can still apply with that. It's recent enough to apply. Thank you.
Yeah, so there is no too old or that would say, okay, you're disqualified, right? So typically we actually, so before we change it to like no year is disqualifying, we actually capped it at 5 years. So in a way you could say you are getting at the border of that 5 year uh, gap. But even now, there is none. You know, you could have graduated 10 years ago and you might still be picked if there are other things that are uh, more favorable in your profile. So it's a rule of thumb. I don't want you to think this is a formula and if I don't have this, it's a no. If I have it, it's a yes. It's just, is this a favorable factor or is this an adverse factor? And I would
Sir,
say
thank you.
if it's within 5 years of graduation, yeah, it's a favorable factor. If it's more than 5 years of after graduation, then we can't really call you a recent graduate. But that doesn't mean that you are then disqualified. You might have some other things that would overcome that and tip the things in your favor.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Etienne Silas.
All right. Good evening, sir, and good
Good
evening,
evening.
everyone. I want to really comment and thank you for how detailed and remarkable this session was. So I'm Eteng Silas, a final year petroleum engineering student at University of Ibadan. So I have just two questions centered on the standardized test. So I saw that you highlighted that in the application link. So I wanted to ask. Um, I know that the Michael Taiwo Foundation usually gives out GRE voucher to students. So I wanted to ask, is this year inclusive or an exception? And then secondly, I wanted to ask, what is the criteria for this? So yeah, that's my question, sir.
Okay. Um, so the GRE voucher is not given by the Michael Taiwo Foundation, actually. The GRE voucher is given by Michael Taiwo, period. So that is a personal thing that I do on my social media page. So there is a difference. Okay. There is no interview to that. It can be stopped at any time. There is none of that. And it is something that I do in a way to just help people, just in general. You can say it's not any different from any of the giveaway that Michael Taiwo does on social media. So now the Michael Taiwo Scholarship as an organization itself will cover GRE fees for people who win the scholarship, and not just GRE, but TOEFL. That's something we didn't even talk about today. What the scholarships covers? It covers your GRE, TOEFL, application fees to up to 6 schools, additional score report if you need to send your score report to additional schools, transcript evaluation if you need to, evaluate your transcript, and of course, one-on-one mentoring or coaching. Those are all the things that are covered. But yeah, the GRE voucher thing is completely separate. All right, Wemimo Teslim.
Good evening, sir. Please confirm if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, thank you very much for this detailed session. So my question is in the aptitude test, is there for the sake of preparation actually, is there let's say a test PQ? Maybe it is Dragnet to use for SHL or GMAT. Yes, sir, that's my question.
Yeah, for that, we are actually going to send we're going to send like a test preparation, you could say, guide before the test. So if you're shortlisted for the test, there will be like a test preparation guide for you to know what exactly you should do.
Very much, sir.
Yeah. And there is no special software. It's going to be, no special software. It's just going to be your normal, you see how this form is? That's also like the kind of form we use in the test. So there will be questions, and then there will be A, B, C, D, and you pick your solution, and then you go. And Jimo Muiz.
Yes, good evening, sir. Thank you very much for the opportunity, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, sir. Yes, so I applied for the Michael Taiwo Scholarship last year, which was 2025, and I was still a final year student at that time. And I didn't get in, but this year I already got a opportunity for a direct PhD program. But I just wanted to know that, like, I wanted to ask if you would still encourage me to apply, because I know that the Michael Taiwo Scholarship is not just about payments for this and that, and because the mentorship, especially about it's a very important aspect of the Michael Taiwo Scholarship. So I just wanted to ask that, sir.
Yeah, I would encourage you to apply, and these are the type of information you want to put in your essay, right?
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah. Idakwo Matthew James.
Good evening, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. Good evening, everyone. My question is, as regarding what the scholarship covers. For instance, some of us in biomedical sciences, we may not need GRE, and we may like, or it will be more productive for us to go for other things like IELTS and transcript evaluation and some other things. Would it be possible for us to kind of select what we would like the scholarship to provide for us, or something like that? That if we eventually kind of win this scholarship.
No, the answer is no. We try to make sure the scholarship is covers a broad range of things, exams, application fees. Starting last year, we added, transcript evaluations. I think it was 3 years ago that we included additional score report. So as a body, we look at our budget, and then we look at what we generally see people needing, and then we update our award package if needed. But on a case-by-case basis, no, we do not do that, because it makes the administration of the award messy. So we have a no substitution policy, meaning, since you are not paying for my GRE, can you then pay for maybe 2 extra schools? No, we have a no substitution policy for that. Ogunsanya Emmanuel.
Hello, good evening. Good evening, sir.
Yes.
Please, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
All right, sir. I wanted to ask for those of us that we don't even have like a Twitter account. Like for me, I'm only active on email, like my GitHub account and WhatsApp. So for those of us that don't even have a Twitter account, we only have a LinkedIn account that we are not active on. Does that mean we need to create a Twitter account?
No. You don't have to create a Twitter account. If you don't have it, just put none or leave it blank. It's one of those fields. It's one of the very few fields that if you leave it blank, it's not going to. You see, in fact, in this example, I left it blank and it didn't give me an error. If I did the same thing to gender, for instance, you say to say there is an error. So if you don't have, leave it blank. If you do have, put it, even if it's not active. But no, you don't have to go and create a new account just for this. George.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Mine is about the recording. Some of us joined and then we were alerted that we've exceeded the number of participants that is allowed. So I don't know if we would have access to the recording and how would we have access to it?
Okay, yes, and I apologize for that. We should have used I think a different format that would allow even more people to join. But you will have access to the recording. You are already in this meeting, so that tells me that you either receive our newsletter or you follow us on social media or you are aware of us somehow for you to even be in this meeting. So we are going to this is being recorded and we're going to share the recording everywhere. We'll put it on social media. We'll send it as a newsletter, and it is going to get to you. And it's going to get to you really soon. I think after the meeting, it takes Zoom about 1 hour to create the recording link. And then after that, we can go into sharing mode. So I would say in the next few hours or so, you should start, you should get the recording. That's a good question.
Thank you.
All right. I feel very happy because we've spent exactly 1 hour and I've been able to answer all the questions. I'm also really proud of the quality of the questions, by the way. So when I say that's a good question, I'm not just trying to be polite. You guys have really asked really good questions today. And that is very helpful because people who are going to listen to this recording, they will have a good, rich range of questions that would have been answered because you all asked. And you all asked very different questions, not like trying to ask the same thing the last person just asked. So it makes me feel very hopeful that we do have a future when I see very, very brilliant minds like you aspiring to be the best. I wish you all the best. I hope one day we're so big that we give almost everybody the scholarship. But that day is not going to be this year, unfortunately. We're still going to have to be as selective as ever, but I'm rooting for you. Trust me when I say that. I love you very much and have a good rest of your weekend.